Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Umbals. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so one suggestion, when I'm speaking, rest of you, if you could go on mute, and when you have a question, you can unmute yourself, or you can even use the chat if you want to ask questions in between, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be financial systems. I'm just going to share my screen and pull up a notepad. So, have any of you heard this term financial system or financial systems?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what is it? What is a financial system?
It brings the economy together. It's a component of, say, yeah, I've written down participants, markets, product, and services.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, it makes up a part of the financial system. Anyone else?
So it's basically where it's like an exchange of funds where lenders and borrowers get together and transactions takes place there.
Thanks, Aditya. That's exactly correct. So, why would an economy need a financial system?
Because it contributes in economic growth.
Correct. So, basically, a financial system is a collection of your financial markets, participants, products, and regulators. Okay. So, you need a financial system to help money to move from lenders to borrowers for the economy to grow. Okay. Now, money can move in two ways. You have something called as direct lending, where the lenders can directly meet the borrowers through something called as the financial markets, which we'll discuss a little later in class, the types of financial markets. Or if the lenders don't know how to reach the borrowers directly, they can go through intermediaries and meet the borrowers. So intermediaries can be who all?
Banks.
Banks, yes. Who else?
Different kind of funds
Stock
like
exchanges.
insurance, mutual funds.
Insurance, mutual
Yeah,
funds,
insurance. Yeah.
yes. Brokers, all these guys, they are all intermediaries. Okay. So write down what's a financial system and write down what makes up the financial system and write down what is direct lending and indirect lending. So direct lending is when lenders can directly meet the borrowers through the financial markets, and indirect lending is when the lenders go through intermediaries to meet the borrowers. Okay? I'll give you about 2 minutes to write this down. Done? Okay. So what we're going to do is your financial system makes up your financial participants, your financial markets, your financial products, financial services, and financial regulators. So we'll discuss each of these guys in details. So the first one we'll take is your financial regulator. So what's a financial regulator?
Like SEBI who decides on pricing,
A person who decides on
the interest.
pricing, the interest. Okay, what else? Sorry, just give me 1 second.
They frame the rules and regulations
Who
and
like
take
overlook
price.
yeah, right.
Yeah, they protect
It
the
basically
investor.
frames the regulation part.
The set of guidelines to be followed, they implement those things so that it works without any.
They are the watchdogs of the company, like security.
Sorry, I had got a call in between. Could you just repeat the last few sentences? Apologies for that. Staff had
They're
called.
like a watchdog.
Like a
They're
watchdog,
like
yes.
watchdogs.
Okay.
Yeah, they frame the
Like
rules and
security.
regulations and they
Makes the
impose
rules
fines
and
and penalties and all.
regulations, fines, penalties. Good. Who else? Anyone else? Can you give me some examples of some regulators?
RBI?
SEBI,
Yes.
RBI.
Yes. Can you give me more?
RBI, SEBI, IRDI.
More.
Federal Reserve Bank.
Thank you. What else?
Bank of Japan,
Okay. So
DOJ.
okay. So write down what is a financial regulator. So I'll just bring that up. So a financial regulator is a government or non-government institution that are the ones that oversees the financial markets. Okay. They are the ones who frames the rules and regulations and also the ones who impose fines and penalties in case if these rules and regulations are not followed. Their primary job also is to protect the investor and to encourage investors to invest in the market. So someone had mentioned the term watchdog, which would be appropriate in this case because your regulator is the watchdog of the financial markets, ensuring that everything runs smoothly, ensuring the one who frames the rules and regulations, and ensuring that people follow these rules and regulations, and if they're not followed, impose fines and penalties, right? So some of the examples that were given was RBI, SEBI, IRDA. SEC stands, what's the full form of SEC?
Securities Exchange Board. Oh, wait, sorry.
That is India.
Yeah,
That is
Securities Exchange Commission. Yeah.
Commission of
No,
which country?
securities, US.
And it's the financial regulator for what?
So all the financial activities like this, any activities that happen on the stock exchange.
Yes.
So they regulate, yeah.
Yeah. So then you have Bank of England, you have the European Central Bank, right? So what sort of a little classwork I'll give. So this topic has a little bit of classwork that is added to it. That would be to find the different regulators of different countries. The reason being, today almost 24 of you have joined the class, right? So let's say all 24 of you hypothetically go to the same interview and the same interviewer asks all of you the same question. What is a financial regulator and name some? automatically you're going to say SEBI, RBI, right? Some of you might say the Federal Reserve or Securities Exchange Commission, right? You all would say the same ones. So the reason why I'm asking you to find out the different regulators of different countries is if you give them regulators of some other country, let's say Spain or let's say Norway or let's say maybe even some of the Middle Eastern countries, that will show the interviewer that you've at least read something. Are you getting what I'm trying to tell you guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Cool. So write down what is financial regulators and write down some of these examples, and then we'll move on to the bigger chunk of today's class, which is your financial participants. Okay. So next we're going to talk about your financial participants. And under that, the first one that we're going to talk about is banks. So can you tell me how many types of banks are there?
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am.
So I was saying we're talking about financial participants, and under that the
Hello.
first one. Hello. Yes.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, where the class started, I could not able to understand, ma'am. I'm Nikhil.
Okay, Nikhil, you just joined in, is it?
Yeah, I've joined
Class.
2:30 only, ma'am.
Okay. So we're discussing about financial systems. We just covered what was financial systems and we covered what was a financial regulator, right? And now
Okay.
we're talking about financial participants. Under that,
Okay.
we're
Okay.
discussing about banks. And my question was, how many types of banks do you know that are there?
investment
We
bank,
started
retail
at
bank.
2:30.
Okay.
Investment bank, retail bank,
Okay. What else?
Central
Commercial
bank.
bank,
Commercial bank. Then
Central bank.
Cooperative.
central bank. Thank you. Cooperative. Yes. Brilliant.
custodian banks,
Custodian banks. Who
Public
said
bank.
that?
Saujanya,
Okay. Good, Saujanya. Thank you. What else? Okay.
and digital banks like Paytm.
Yeah, but when we are talking about more of IB operations and the financial markets, we'll stick to these guys. Okay. So thanks for the answers. They're all correct. So we'll start with,
And NBFC also.
yeah. So we have the most common types that are there, which is your retail bank, your commercial bank, your cooperative bank, your specialized banks, your merchant banks, which were then, or your investment banks that were formerly called as merchant banks, your custodian banks, and your central banks. Okay. So, what's a retail bank? Or what's the difference between a retail and a commercial bank?
retail just include the lending and borrowing of the or deposit.
I'm sorry, could you be a
Hello?
little more clear about what you're trying to say?
Involve the lending and accepting the
Involved in running and okay.
commercial friends.
Okay.
Right, so retail is more concentrated on consumers, and commercial where they give loans to business, which are
Okay.
Retail is
Anyone
more
else?
concentrated
Maxim,
Matching
I think
deposits.
commercial
Chip,
deals mostly with corporations, and retail focuses mainly on individuals. If I'm not
Okay. Correct. So most of your answers are correct. So retail and commercial banks actually have a similar functions. That is, they provide you your savings accounts, checking accounts, salary account. They loan you money. They give you credit cards, debit cards, etc. All of that is the same functions. The difference is the clients that they cater to. Like someone mentioned, your retail banks cater to your normal individuals, whereas your commercial banks cater to companies or institutions. So to give you a difference, let's say if you join JP Morgan Chase, right? So you will require a salary account, correct? Your salary account would be let's say HDFC Bank. So HDFC Bank acts as a commercial bank for JP Morgan. You guys get what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So
yes,
same
ma'am.
services, but the clients they cater to is on a different level. And another major difference between your retail and commercial banks is as banks gets deposits, correct? Yes or no?
Yes,
Banks
ma'am.
gets deposits. Would the bank sit ideally on the money that they get as deposits?
Ma'am, my voice is breaking.
No, ma'am. They offer it.
People to switch off their mics,
Voice
please,
is
ma'am.
breaking, ma'am.
So there is a lot of
Okay,
disturbance.
guys, the rest of you please go on mute. So if when you want to speak, just either unmute and speak, because at once if all of you unmute and speak, then it gets all this thing. Or on the chat you can this thing give your answers. Okay, I have the chat window open so I can read your chats or whatever you type simultaneously. Right, so I was asking, banks do accept deposits, both the retail and commercial banks, and my question was, do these banks ideally sit on these deposits? What will they do with these deposits if they come in?
They invest.
Invest money to the lend the borrowers also.
So Aditya and Kapil say bank lends the
They
money as
invest.
loan, which is correct, right? So your retail banks usually reinvest the money that they get as deposits by giving it out as loans. Your commercial banks, what deposits they get, they reinvest as loans also, and they look to actively invest in the market as well. Okay, so your retail banks don't actively invest in the financial markets versus your commercial banks who get larger deposits. What they do is they would reinvest that money in the financial markets by investing in maybe stocks or bonds or maybe money market instruments to get, because money market is a short term market where they can get their returns faster. Is that clear with what's a retail and a commercial bank? Yeah, so write that down before we head on to what's a cooperative and a specialized bank. Okay, so before I can ask, most of you said you're done. So what's a cooperative bank?
They give loans to rural sectors.
Small rural, basically the rural sector.
Brilliant, very good. So cooperative banks are those banks that function like a retail bank only, similarly, but however, one of their main goal is to provide what do you say, loans to, like, you could say, the poorer sections of the society, or like even to the agriculture sector. Okay, so can you name some cooperative banks for me?
Like now, recently there is a PMC also,
PNC,
who has
IDBI.
been closed.
IDBI, yes.
IDBI.
Then we have your
Grameen
Karnataka
Bank.
Cooperative Bank, you
Gramin.
have
This is
Andhra
Gramin.
Cooperative
Gramin
Karnataka
Bank.
Bank.
Karan,
Yeah,
Gramin.
yeah. So there are
Gramin
many
Bank. No?
cooperative banks. Okay, what's a specialized bank? serve a specific type of activity like real estate, agriculture, correct, Anupam? Anything else? Can there is or rather your specialized bank, their main functions is they serve a specific type of economic activity such as industrial, agriculture, or real estate. Okay. One of the most popular ones that we have in India is called as Exim Bank. Have you heard of this one?
Yes, ma'am.
Exchange import,
Yeah, export import bank.
export import.
They
Excellent.
help in the export import business, right? So usually
We
if you're
can.
in export or import, you might have to pay in a foreign currency or you might receive foreign currency which then has to be converted. This is where your Exim Bank would help you. Okay.
Can you tell the difference with specialized bank? What is a specialized bank again?
So a specialized bank is a bank who serves a specific type of economic activity such as industrial or real estate or your export import or even agriculture. You want me to write it down?
Like they invest in that, like how the sport
No,
bank? Can
they
you tell?
help or they even maybe help in funding. Like for example, let's
Okay.
say you're a exporter, right? Let's say you export something and you get paid in euros. Now you're sitting in India. Would euros serve any purpose for you?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, it needs to be converted, right?
Yes.
So this is when your Exim Bank would help you.
Like
There is a one
Western
bank only in
Union?
India.
No, Western
Western
Union is more of your
is the
normal,
exchange.
day-to-day exchanges.
Exchange.
You're traveling somewhere and you need the money. Like that too, the money you can't convert huge sum of money at your Western Union, who is also known as a authorized money
Alright.
dealer. Okay.
Bank only, ma'am. Exim Bank. There is a one bank only in specialized.
No, you have SIDBI, then you have NABARD, NABARD.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
About
Yeah.
national.
Okay. So write down what's a cooperative and specialized bank.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Sure.
So, when you have like commercial banks helping the companies
Mhm.
and cooperative banks helping the agriculture and the rural sectors, what different can a specialized bank offer? Because already the three banks mentioned above are similarly doing what a specialized bank is doing.
It will be different in terms of the clients that they cater to. And when you say specialized, when you take investment banks, right, they just don't do one or two of these functions. They do a lot of the other functions as well. And the clients that they cater to will be different. Okay. Your specialized
Okay.
bank will be only in that particular sector. They won't deviate from that sector. If they're into export and import, they'll only be in that sector.
And do these banks actually give any recommendations and guidelines to corporate companies and everything, like project structure and everything? Do they go to that extent?
No, that will be a different type of service. That will be
Oh,
a boutique investment bank, which are also called a specialized bank, which should, like, let's say, if you want to do a corporate restructuring, then it would be a different type of institution that provides that service and that advice for you.
okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, what is custodian bank?
We'll get to it. We are just in the process of going through the types of banks.
Okay.
Have you guys done writing with what specialized banks and
Yes, ma'am.
cooperative banks? Okay, so we'll keep merchant investment banks a little later. We'll cover central banks first, and then we'll go to your merchant investment banks and your custodian banks, right? So your central bank, as everyone knows, is the bark of all banks, right? He's the guy who controls the money flow in the market. Also, he's the one who forms the rules and regulations, and he imposes fines and penalties if the rules and regulations are not followed. Okay. Your central bank is also known as this lender of the last resort. What does this mean?
Other banks find out that they
So
have
last,
more.
like it's the last option.
It is the last option you'll go to borrow money
Yeah,
from. Why?
money. Yeah, man. Because it's like father of all banks. It's have the control of the all banks in India, like
Yeah.
RBI.
He's going to
So everything
ask
it
what happened to the money, right? Or he's going to, like,
yeah
what did he do with the money,
right.
right? And also, he's one of the most expensive person to borrow from versus other banks that if you borrow from them, they might charge you a lower interest versus your central banks. Okay, so your borrowers would probably, the last person they would go to borrow money from is the central banks. Is that clear?
Hello. Yeah, ma'am. Doubt is there.
Yeah, tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, ma'am. You are saying that central banks give the more interest rate to the like commercial banks they are lending because the
They
charge.
charge,
Because
yeah.
I think that I think the central bank is charging the low rate interest to the commercial banks.
No,
It's
no,
correct or not, ma'am?
no.
Yes, ma'am.
When
Actually, they are the bank, right? They don't
they're
provide loans
bankers,
directly.
banker, but the thing is
Ah,
they
bankers
charge
bank
a higher rate of interest versus,
compared to other banks.
let's say if I was a commercial bank, okay, and let's say I needed to borrow money for some or the other reason, I had a short-term deficit, okay. If I
Okay,
go
ma'am.
to the central bank, he's going to charge me something called as a reverse repo rate, which will cover in your money market class what is repo and reverse repo.
Yeah.
Okay. If I go to another commercial bank, chances are he will charge me a little less interest rate than what the central bank is charging me. So if I had to borrow money, who would I borrow from then?
From the other banks, ma'am,
Hmm.
because they are charging the
Correct,
less.
because they're charging me lesser interest versus the central bank. You've heard of
I
repo
actually
rates and reverse repo rates, right?
yeah, ma'am.
Right? You might get confused because a
Ma'am, I have
repo,
no idea about repo rates.
no issues. Basically, repo rates is nothing but when someone wants to borrow money from another person, they do something called as a repo agreement. In exchange, they keep something called as a collateral, which will be further covered in your money market class. Okay, you could say it's sort of like when you do a gold loan. When you what you do in a gold loan is you give gold as collateral and you borrow money, correct? And then you pay interest on it, and then you get, once you've returned the money, you get your gold back. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's sort of like that, but we won't call it like a gold loan. It sort of functions like that, but that's how a repo agreement works. Okay. So
Ma'am,
back.
and they
Sorry,
provide
ma'am, I
loans
want to intervene between.
commercial or
But generally, it is
individuals,
that
ma'am,
when
organizations.
central bank lends the money to the commercial bank, and the reverse repo rate with the when commercial bank lends the money to the central bank.
Yeah, correct. That's the thing. That's what happens here in India. Okay. Sorry,
Hello.
someone else was
Hello.
saying something else.
Yeah, that's what, ma'am.
Uh,
Do you provide loans for the commercial organization or the individuals, ma'am?
Sorry. What was that question again? Was it the question if central bank provides loans only to organizations or individuals, or sorry, I didn't get that last part.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the same.
Central bank will only provide loans to organizations. Individuals, I don't think could afford to borrow a loan from a central bank unless you are like maybe Jeff Bezos or maybe Bill Gates.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. So, are we clear with what's a central bank and what is their job, or what is or written lender of the last resort? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. We are clear on that. Can you please tell me about like repo rate and reverse repo rate, because I got a bit confused after this discussion. Like one-liner definition, maybe you can tell me.
The simplest explanation is, as a borrower, I sell something with the agreement that I'm going to buy it back. Okay, like how you sell.
No, I'm asking about reverse repo and repo rate.
You're talking the rate again. This will be discussed in your money market class further. The simplest definition right now I can give you, Preeti, is if I want to borrow money, I sell something, I take the money, and there's an agreement that I'll buy that same thing back.
Okay.
It's like a mortgage.
No, mortgage is different. Mortgage is like a home loan. That is different. Okay. So let's not get into the nitty-gritty of what is repo and repo rate now, because that will be definitely covered in your money market class. Okay. Are we clear with what's a central
Okay,
bank?
ma'am, sure. Yeah, it is clear.
Yeah. Do you guys want to
Yeah.
write this
Yes.
down?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and write down
Yes,
some examples. So we have our usual, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India. We have the Fed Reserve, which is of the US, right? Then we have the good old Bank of England, right? Bank of Japan. Okay, these are all examples.
State Bank of
your,
Pakistan.
yeah, these are all your central banks of these countries. So your homework will be find out the different central banks of different countries.
Hello.
Yes, Nikhil.
Hello, ma'am. If you explain about the retail and commercial banks, na? I take the example of the our domestic bank, HDFC. Now, they are the FGC both retail and commercial, na? So they have commercial department to retail department.
Yes, but again, their retail side will be different from their commercial side.
Yeah, right. Okay. Like MSME work is a commercial sector, na? They provide MSME loans and all.
That's the thing. The functions that retail and commercial bank is almost similar itself. The difference is the clients that they have.
Okay.
Retail like deals with no, I mean normal people like everyone high worthy, right? The commercial bank, high worthy
Commercial banks
individual.
will have higher or your
Ultra HNI.
yeah, they can have ultra HNI or they can have
Ultra
usually
HNI.
corporates and institutions are their clients.
The loan given by the commercial MSME loans, SEMG departments. These are in the commercial.
Yes, so you have different this thing right now in your retail also you have loans. Your retail can
Yeah.
provide
Right.
loans for smaller businesses and all, whereas your commercial provides
Right. Right.
loans for larger businesses and all of that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, retail banks can also be a commercial bank, right?
Your HDFC can act as a retail bank, it can act as a commercial bank, it can act as a specialized bank, it can
ICICI.
act as a custodian bank,
Merchant.
not a merchant bank though. And the reason I'll explain in a little bit.
They don't have. They have securities, right? HTs.
Yes, that's why that's a specialized side of the other thing. So that will be like a boutique investment bank. Again,
Different entity.
we'll cover that in a little bit. Okay. Are you guys done writing what are central banks?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on to your custodian banks. So custodian banks are those banks that are required to safeguard a client's assets. The client's assets can be securities, cash, commodities, property, deeds of the properties, etc. Okay. As per regulation, any investor in the market is required to have a custodian. Okay. Now, you as an investor, if you bought a share, the shares are kept in a dematerialized form at the custodian. The reason why custodians are there, again, primary reason is to safeguard the client's assets. Okay, and then a little bit later, we'll discuss how they do that. In terms of, as an investor, you would hire, let's say, an investment bank to help you invest your money. But even though if the investment bank makes your investment decisions, the money and your securities are stored at the custodian to keep you safe. Okay. And in your level 2, there's a separate class on custodians that will further discuss what are their functions. Okay. So some of your custodians that exist is your Chase, which is part of your JP Morgan Chase. Then you have Bank of New York Mellon, which is the biggest custodian that exists. Then you have State Street Bank and you have Northern Trust. Okay. And then there are some more which you guys can find out about. Are we okay
SSB,
with
which bank, ma'am? SSB.
State Street
SSB and
Bank?
NT, ma'am.
State Street Bank
State Street
and
Bank.
Northern.
But can you explain little example of the was the custodian bank? How do you are saying na, like they keep the safeguard of the client assets,
Which
securities, and
I will
cash? You are
explain
saying
in a
like
little bit with an example.
okay, okay. Yes, ma'am, please.
Ma'am, is wealth management of the form of the or the client is can be termed as custodian the work of custodian bank?
Wealth management usually falls with the investment bank.
Okay.
Wealth management branch, like you are saying, the
Yeah.
wealth manager are there, and these all under the investment bank, IBs, ma'am.
It's one of the functions the IB provides. However,
Okay.
you have State Bank of India, right? It has a wealth management side, correct?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
then that part is like a specialized bank or it is a boutique investment bank, but it's not called as a bulge bracket investment bank. And the reason again, I'll cover it in a bit.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So write down what are custodian banks and then we'll move on to merchant and investment banks.
Ma'am, I have a question regarding this custodian bank. Uh, is this custodian bank prominent in India? I was just curious about this.
We do have custodian banks in India. Your SBI functions as a custodian bank. Your HDFC also functions as a custodian bank.
Any bank can function like a custodial bank, like
Yes.
when we do import and export. So there's a third bank which take the custody, well, like which is a guarantee bank. Do we consider that bank?
So, for example, you have your State Bank of India that acts as a retail commercial bank, right? It can act as a specialized bank by providing certain specialized service, right? It can act as a custodian bank as well. In case if investors invest in the market, then their shares and their cash can be stored at the custody side of State Bank of India.
Like all the securities, ma'am, like we can say the Kotak security, ICICI security, these are also like act as a custodian because they have the demat account, the
No, these are
investor shares that they,
brokers. No, these are
they are
brokers.
okay.
These are not
So what's the
custodian
difference?
banks.
What's the difference, ma'am?
The
Because you are saying that they
broker, again, I will explain it in a little bit with an example if you could hold on to your questions. The
yeah,
examples
for
that
sure.
you give is a broker. He helps you buy and sell securities, but he is not
Yeah.
responsible to store your securities or guard your securities. That is the job of a
Okay.
custodian bank.
Can you, maybe yes, you can explain with example so it will be more clear.
Yeah, so if you hold on to your question, like I said in a little bit, after we cover what is your custodian bank and your investment bank, in an example, I'll explain and you'll understand the difference. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Have you guys done writing with or finished writing what are custodian banks?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
we are done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll move on to your merchant investment banks. So before your investment banks were called investment banks, they were called as merchant banks. Do you know why?
They act as a middleman, like
They
merchant.
used to be over the counter.
Sorry, they used to be over the counter.
They used to be over the counter. Like there was a whole market where the merchant used to come and sell their shares on papers.
Almost
No,
close,
because they used to
Murtuza.
be banking for merchants.
Sorry,
Not
what's
Are they
it? What is
industrial
it?
banks?
Okay, so the reason why they were called merchant banks was in the good old days, you used to have merchants who used to go do businesses from here and there, right?
मैम बिकॉज वो
Merchants.
कारोबारियों को अपनी बैंकिंग की सुविधा दिए करते थे इसलिए
Ha, Vatsal, thanks, but I prefer if you tell us in English. Okay? Not that I don't understand Hindi. It's just that let's stick to speaking in English because we need to articulate in English. Okay? Interviews won't happen in Hindi.
yes
All
Can you
right?
more tell about the can you tell about the merchant? Ma'am?
So
You're
basically,
saying earlier.
let me put it this way. When maybe in the 1800s or 1700s, the British Empire were known for being merchants because they built ships and they used to travel to different countries. And what they used to do is they used to buy spices and then they used to trade with these spices and everything. Okay. So the British economy started growing, and these guys were referred to as merchants. And obviously, because they had businesses, they were making money. The money which they used to keep in the banks, those banks were referred to as merchant banks. That was specialized in your these type of business. Are you with me so far? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah, right.
eventually, what
Yeah.
happened was the economy started to grow, and businesses obviously eventually started to grow as well, right? When a business grows or expands, what is the thing that they need to expand, or what is the first thing they need if they're going to expand?
Market, they need to expand.
Markets.
The market they have anyway, where they're going to expand. What do they need? Funds, exactly.
Capital.
Thank you, Anupam. You need
Capital.
funds,
Capital.
money,
What?
capital.
Yeah.
So what happens is they went to if they go to their bank, which is the merchant bank, to borrow the money. You know how greedy banks are. They are going to charge them a high interest. Correct?
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
businesses started looking for methods to raise funds. So that's when the merchant banks also started evolving to come to this thing. Okay, how do I help this fellow raise funds? Let me, reach out to some of my clients of the banks who are in having money. Let's see if they are interested to invest in this particular business. So slowly, what happened is the merchant banks also started evolving in providing different sort of services. Okay, and then they went from being called as merchant banks to being called as investment banks. All right. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So some of the main
They borrow.
functions of an investment bank is, first function is they help to raise capital that we just discussed, right? They help to raise capital, or Aditya has written helps private companies to go public, correct, which is called as your IPO. Okay, raise capital
Right.
or helps
Ma'am,
in,
how like public? Can you explain the concept from private to public like?
again, that is covered in your cash equity class, which will be covered in the next class. In that,
Okay, ma'am.
will be specific, we'll be covering what is shares, how are shares issued, what is an initial public offering, etc. So today's class is basically just your basis of understanding what are financial participants, markets, products and services. Okay, it's just like your base. All right, is that clear to everyone? Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the functions that your investment banks provide is they help raise capital or helps in your initial public offering. Yes, Aditya, they also help in mergers and acquisitions. I must have written it down here somewhere. Yes, mergers and acquisitions. Okay. Then you have underwriting. Have you heard of this term underwriting?
Yes.
No, ma'am.
Yes.
Just heard, but
Yes.
don't know.
Okay. So what
Yes,
is
ma'am.
underwriting? I've written it here. So let's say, for example, company A wants to raise capital because they're planning to expand. So they decide to issue, how much shares is this?
9 lakh.
Lakh. 10 lakh.
No, tell me in this decimal system that I've written here.
1 million.
1 million, correct. They're
Million.
planning to issue 1 million shares, and each share they will sell at $10. So their goal is to raise how much capital?
1 crore.
10 million.
10 million. Thank
10
you.
million.
Their
Sorry.
goal is to raise 10 million. So let's think, out of the 1 million
Million.
shares that we issue, 900,000 shares were bought by the public. This is referred to as subscribed shares. Okay, investors bought and 900,000 shares were sold to different investors. Are we clear till here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The remaining 100,000 shares are called as unsubscribed shares, which are not sold in the market yet. Okay, or no one has bought it. Now, the investment bank who's providing the service of underwriting guarantees to buy this 100,000 shares, which makes up about 10% of the issue size. So the issue size was 1 million, 10% is 100,000. So the investment bank will buy those remaining unsubscribed shares. Why? To help the company raise the capital that they require. This is called as underwriting, and usually investment banks in an IPO guarantee to underwrite at least 10% of the issue size. If the issue size was 2 million, then they would guarantee to underwrite 200,000 shares.
Disturbance is coming
Ma'am, I
on.
have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are unsubscribed shares and preference shares the same thing or they're
No,
different?
they are different. Your unsubscribed shares are your ordinary shares which are issued to the public, and your preference shares, which will be covered in your cash equity class, are shares that are not, what do you say, issued to the public. It's issued to private investors, HNI investors, or angel investors, and they are not listed in the market, your preference shares.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Vatsal is saying, please ask everyone to be on mute if there's a lot of other voices. Okay.
No, what's the benefit to the IB
So
investment bankers?
Of what? Of buying or underwriting?
Yeah.
First of all, they're paid to underwrite because they don't provide this underwriting service for free. Okay, that is one. Another thing is this 100,000 shares that they buy from the company, they can then sell it in the market and get money for that.
Can you please tell people type the
like
question in the chat box and then like
Yeah, I think that would be better. So I have the chat box open, so you can type in your question on the chat box. I'll read the question out loud and answer it because I think we have about like 29 people, including me. So it's creating a lot of disturbance, I think. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, right. So one question was, what was the benefit for an investment bank for underwriting? Like I mentioned, one is that you investment bank gets paid to underwrite, and that is not a cheap charge. They charge quite a lot for underwriting. Okay. Additionally, what shares they get in, if they buy the the unsubscribed shares, they can then sell it in the market and get money for that. Okay. So Saujany's question was, so mutual funds and other types of fund fall under IB? No, Saujanya, they are a type of investment institutions, and you will learn more about mutual funds in your level 2 when you cover asset management. Okay. Nikhil asks, you can correlate with Yes Bank, FPO, ITL, FPO. Sorry,
I was saying कि like FPO is there, no? Yes, Max. So it works. IB works in FPO too. They are
yes,
like
definitely. So, if people don't know what's an FPO, FPO is something called as a further public offering. So, once a company has done an initial public offering where they've raised capital through the public the first time by issuing shares, if they want to raise further capital after some years, they can through shares again. It is called as a FPO, which is called as a further public offering or a follow-up public offer. Okay. Does 10% of underwriting, can they resell in the market or to it's up to the investment bank if they want to sell to private investors or if they want to sell it to the public. There's no hard and fast rule that it has to be sold only to private investors or only to the public. Okay. Kapil asks.
Okay, ma'am. Actually, further to this question, I just need to ask that if this 10% share is in underwriting, so it will be more secure rather than those subscribed shares. Will it be like that?
No, it's nothing like that. So let me put an example. In this case, company A wanted to raise 10 million. They've issued 1 million shares. Now, if the public entirely subscribes to the 1 million shares, then the investment bank doesn't have to honor the underwriting 10%, right? Because it is entirely subscribed by the public. Suppose if it was undersubscribed, out of that 10% of the issue size, they will tell, I will buy it from you to help raise the capital. If it is completely subscribed by the public, then there's fully subscribed shares. Then the investment bank doesn't have to do any underwriting there.
Okay, so there will be no extra edge for the investors that if it is underwritten, like there is no
like
extra. Okay, Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And Kapil's question was for underwriting 10% is mandatory or they can extend this. The usual this thing is 10%. Okay, and to give you an understanding also, when the IPO is done, a company will have more than one underwriter. They don't have just one underwriter. They can have, so one is definitely compulsory as per regulations, but they can have even up to 5, 6 underwriters. In fact, your Reliance Power had 10 underwriters when they went public. Right? So imagine 10 underwriters
Ma'am, is there
getting.
any limit to writer?
Sorry? Can you type your
Is there
question, sir?
any limit to writer?
10% is what they, this thing. Now, limit for how many underwriters you need to have. One is compulsory. Right? You can have more than one.
Okay.
Okay.
Ma'am, is ICICI Securities is a merchant bank?
It is a boutique investment bank. The reason is it only specializes in brokerage of buying and selling of shares.
It's a part of investment bank, ma'am. You're saying a
It's not
boutique
a
investment
part
bank.
of investment bank. It's a type of investment bank which is called as a boutique investment bank.
Okay, all securities come under this.
Yeah, meaning they buy and sell securities. That's what they do. Only that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Anupam,
Thank you.
sorry, this question
PNB
was.
Bank reacts as an investment bank or not?
Sorry, Altamash, can you type your question because your voice was not clear?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So Nikhil's question was, ma'am, in both IPO and FPO underwriters are compulsory? Yes. Okay. Anupam's question
Okay, ma'am.
was,
Yeah,
can
clear.
oversubscription occur or there's a halt in any more shares by the company after funds are raised? Oversubscription can definitely occur because if let's take for example Facebook. If Facebook decides now to raise capital in India, if they decide to issue shares in the Indian market, it will definitely be oversubscribed, right? Or even Amazon. Okay, so an IPO can be definitely oversubscribed. In that case, some people may not receive the shares and some people receive the shares. Altama's question is PNB IB? No, it's not an IB. Okay. Saujanya, if IB caters and serves a corporate industry, where does IB get the money for paying underwriting 10%? Because all the services that they provide, like helping to raise capital, sales and trading, wealth management, asset management, research on markets, mergers and acquisitions, they don't do this for free. They charge for it, right?
Ma'am, can you give an example of a merchant bank in India?
We don't have an bulge bracket investment bank in India. We only have boutique investment banks.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Nikhil, in case of oversubscription, the underwriter has to not worry about buying the 10%.
Oh, ma'am, what their role? They will participants or not? They are not participants
They
or they
are
will be
they are participants. The reason being, your underwriters are
Okay.
usually your investment banks, and your investment banks, again in your cash equity class when you cover IPO, they play a main role in your IPO as lead managers. Okay, so that will be covered in your cash equity class.
Like I want to ask, like underwriter, they are like making the position, they are buying the left shares. So I want to ask, in the case of subscription, the role of underwriting, the role of IB Max, they will be buying except like the user investors, na? If they will be buying the shares, the
If
user
they
investors are
want
there.
to, if they want to buy the shares for themselves, they'll have to buy as usual investors. They can't call in
Okay.
their underwriting this thing of 10%.
Okay, 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 okay.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
there can be instances where even the investment bank can decide to buy the whole issue size and then sell the shares in the secondary market.
Like they will be not getting any commission and all extra expenses, na, from the like company who is issuing the shares.
No,
Like they are the user
they
investors
will
only.
charge the company for the service they provide. Understand, nothing is
In the over,
provided for free.
in the oversubscription also.
Oversubscription, they're already been hired as underwriters, so for that they get paid, na? And they
Okay,
since
okay,
they are
okay, okay, okay,
investment banks
okay,
who act as lead managers in the IPO, they're already paid for that service, na?
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So shall we
Okay.
continue, because we got stuck on underwriting and we're there only and we're pressed for time. We just have
Yeah,
about an hour
for
left.
sure,
Okay.
for sure.
Go for
So next, this thing they provide is sales and trading. So trading is pretty easy to understand. It is buying and selling of your securities. Sales is nothing but certain products that they might create, like your, how to put it, sort of like your mutual fund products or your investment schemes, right? So they can create investment schemes for their clients and they can sell it to their clients. So wealth management is nothing but when the investment bank manages a wealth of a HNI client. Okay, what are examples of HNI client, or what does HNI stand for?
High net individuals.
High net worth
I never.
individuals. Okay,
net
that means
income
people
in
who are very, very rich, like your Ambanis, your Tatas, your Aziz
I'm like they are
Premjis.
in the ultra.
Yes, they
They
are
are in
in
the
the
ultra HNI.
ultra rich people.
Ultra. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have asset management, and then you have research in the market. So research on market. So let's say if you were an institution who's got some spare money who wants to invest in the market, or let's say a foreign market, but you don't have any connections or you don't know how to get news of that particular market, so you might hire an investment bank to get you that research on that particular market. Okay, so they give you like what's the current state of the market, which are the top companies to trade in, or which are the top company shares you can buy, etc. Okay, and then your mergers and acquisitions. So mergers is nothing but when two companies join together, and acquisition is when one company takes over the other. So
Sir,
asset management, Nikhil, is nothing but sort of like wealth management. The difference is wealth management is your HNI clients and asset management is your corporates and your institutions.
the function is the same now, ma'am.
Function is the same, only the client is
Okay,
slightly
okay,
different.
okay, ma'am. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So, Preeti, what was it that you wanted me to repeat?
Actually, ma'am, you covered something in asset management, that these were the high net worth investors. That's what I just wanted to.
Okay, that is wealth management. So, wealth management is basically your HNI people's money that the investment bank manages for them.
Okay.
Okay, and asset management are usually institutes or corporates.
Ma'am,
The
just
So
want
the
to confirm.
client differs. Otherwise, we do have same function for both
The
of them.
same functions are provided to them.
Okay, fine.
But just want to confirm, like we are having a particular amount, like the person who is having 100 to 200 crores, they are coming in the HNI, or the person having billions, they are coming after HNI. Any market cap, or is there in the
The
differentiate between?
usual this thing to be classified as a high net worth individual, let me just reconfirm that. I think it has to be 5 million or billion. Let me just check that.
For HNI is ultra HNI. Ultra HNI will be more than billion. Na?
It should be more than billion for ultra HNI.
Therefore, okay.
So it's according to this thing, it's 1 million be an HNI.
Interview can ask this question. I'm like that's why I'm asking.
They usually don't. When it comes to an
Okay.
IB
Then,
ops interview, they might, you're right, they might ask you, but in an IB
yeah,
ops interview, usually they'll stick to your domain questions and all of that. Okay.
that's why I'm asking. Okay.
So just to clarify then, for to be called as an HNI, you should have a net worth of more than $1 million. Ultra HNI, it will be like, I think, $1 billion for sure. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So,
Yes.
since now, remember we are talking about your boutique investment banks, right? So, any boutique investment bank will specialize in one or two of these functions. Okay, not all of these. Bulge bracket investment banks provide all of these functions. Okay, so some of your examples for your bulge bracket investment banks, can you give me some?
Investment banks, boutique investment banks, no?
No, bulge bracket, bigger ones.
Bigger ones.
Goldman Sachs, Aditya says
Goldman
yes.
Sachs, JP
Barclays,
Morgan, maybe.
Barclays,
JP
JP
Morgan
Morgan,
Chase,
yes.
this
Deutsche
Bank of
Bank.
America, Merrill Lynch,
What
which is now
Yeah, it's
with
merged with Bank of America.
Merrill Lynch and
yeah,
Bank of
Bank of
America.
America,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question
RBS.
from one second. He says AMC, which is an asset management company, does it do trading and other share market activities by themselves, or they outsource to some investment bank? Vatsal, your AMCs are usually your investment banks. They get hired by your mutual fund, whoever's created the mutual fund, they get hired by them to invest in the market on their behalf. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay.
The AMC itself, investment banks there.
It can be a part of your investment bank, or you can have separate AMC firms, asset management companies.
Can you name the example, some code example?
The biggest asset management company that exists in the world right now is called as BlackRock.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So yeah, you give me examples of your this thing. So you have Goldman Sachs, Society General, JP Morgan, you have Morgan Stanley as well, you have Nomura, Barclays, Jefferies, BNP,
RBS.
RBS, yes, RBS. Then you have RBC, which is Royal Bank of Canada, right? You have TD, which is Toronto Dominion Bank. These are all examples of investment banks. Right? So, are we clear with what's a merchant investment bank? Yeah. So, quickly write this down and then we'll cover what are depositories, and then I'll talk about that example how we could make out a difference with what is a custodian bank, what's an investment bank, and what's a depository, because usually people get confused between the three of these people. Okay, so quickly write this down.
Just a general question. So, based on the differences in the banks, so investment bank is the biggest one, and we don't have a proper form in India, but investment bank is like internationally known form of a bank, right? Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry, Saujanya, can you repeat it? I just went to grab some water to drink. So.
Oh, sorry. Ma'am, the question I had was, so based on all the types of banks that you've mentioned, investment bank is the happening one right now. That's the best, sector right now, and it's not yet developed in India, but this is internationally known form of a bank. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't have a bulge bracket investment bank in India, but we do have boutique investment banks. So let's say if your area of interest is mergers and acquisitions, then we do have boutique investment banks in India that specializes in mergers and acquisitions. But then that will cater only to the Indian market.
Ma'am, what about Motilal Oswal? It's
That's
also
also a
boutique
boutique
investment bank.
investment bank. They're into sales and trading, research on markets.
Okay.
Ma'am,
Like
what's the difference
Edelweiss also
between
has I.
boutique and
Sorry,
ma'am, what's the
Bhavesh.
difference between boutique and investment bank? Yes, ma'am.
As I mentioned earlier, a boutique investment bank will specialize in only one or two functions that are mentioned here, whereas an investment bank will provide all of these services that is mentioned here.
Okay, ma'am.
Can you tell me like boutique investment and basically into trading only, ma'am?
Yes, you have your HDFC Securities, your ICICI Securities. These are boutique investment banks that are only into sales and trading.
Yeah, okay.
And like 5 paisa and all, no, ma'am.
Sorry?
5 paisa is also like the same, right?
I'm not sure
5
about
paisa.
5 paisa.
They are only into trading. That's nice.
They could be
I
set
want
up
to
as,
ask.
or they could be a broker.
So we have various options like in the under IB we can go to trade wealth management and separate research on market separate merger and
Yes,
education is
there are
separate.
various. There are even departments such as compliance. There's departments such as regulatory reporting. So
Under the
only,
invest all are under the investment bank IB.
yeah.
Okay.
Vatsal's question is, Soggen is a core investment bank or a retail bank? So to answer your question, they started off as a retail bank, then they became a commercial bank, and then they became an investment bank. Okay. Companies like Axela Advisories and all, I would call them as, if they're doing trading, they would be brokers. If they're doing sales, then they would be, they could be called as a boutique investment bank also.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
Don't investment banks also offer proprietary trading?
They do. That's a whole other ball game. So proprietary
Yeah.
trading is within their own listing, and that is, we'll discuss that a little later. What is proprietary trading? They don't offer it to someone else, it is internal. Okay?
Yeah.
We'll discuss that in a little bit when we're covering brokers and dealers. Okay, so can I move on? Because we have actually quite a few bits to cover and we only
Yes.
have like half an
Yes,
hour
ma'am.
left.
Yes.
So what's a Moody's, S&P, Fortune? These are your stock indexes, and some of them are rating agencies. Okay. So depositories. What are depositories?
Like these are NSDL, CDC.
You saw it here, no? That I've written it.
No, I'm working in I'm working in this. That's why.
Okay. So
I'm working in the
depositories.
boutique investment bank.
Okay. So depositories are nothing but institutions that issues the securities on behalf of an issuer. Now, what is an issuer? Issuer is nothing but a company or an organization who wants to issue shares or bonds in the market to raise capital. Like this example here, company A here, who wants to raise capital, decides in issuing 1 million shares. So this one becomes an issuer, company A. Now, as per regulation, this fellow cannot write down on a sheet of paper and give it to someone and say, here, you are now a share owner of a company. The person who actually issues that security is the depository, or he has the authority to issue the security. Is that clear to everyone?
Ma'am, that means that company A is outsourcing its business to raise the capital.
Not outsourcing its business. Let me put it this way. You take your 10th standard board exam, correct?
Okay.
But the person who issues the certificate won't be a university, correct? It will be the central, this thing that we get the certificate from.
Yeah, correct.
Correct. So your university doesn't have the authority to give you that or write on a piece of paper and saying, hey, you graduated this thing, here's your certificate. It actually comes from a government central body that gives you, which is an official this thing. So you could say that's a depository, right? And your university would be your issuer.
Okay, so that is these depositories are mandatory.
Yes,
A company
definitely.
cannot choose if. Okay.
Okay, it is the mandatory that is required for you to issue the shares. Okay. So depositories are also centralized locations where the securities are stored in dematerialized form or demat form. So what is demat form?
Demat, ma'am, the like if we buy shares, they are come in the like the in that form in our Demat account.
Dematerialized.
Actually, it is from cash to electronic form.
Calculated in shares.
From
The number of shares
physical
we
to
hold.
electronic format. So in the good old days, what used to happen is if you used to invest in a share or buy a share, you used to physically get a paper that was to state that you are part
Paper, yeah.
owner of the company. Now, however, due to the technology and this thing that is there now, it's on an electronic format. Okay, which is called as dematerialized format, or for short, it's called as DMAT. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's also a centralized location where securities can move from one investor to the other investor, or from a buyer to a seller, or a seller to a buyer. Okay.
Yes.
Some of your examples is you're in India, we have your NSTL and CDSL. In UK, we have your Clearstream, Euroclear, or in the European region. And then in the US, you have DTCC, which stands for Depository Trust Clearing Corporation. Okay, so your another class work for today would be to find the different depositories of different countries. Okay. So quickly write down what is depositories, and then I'm going to walk you through what's the difference between a custodian and a depository, because people get confused with that. Because since we say that custodian is the one who safeguards the client's asset and they keep the shares and bonds in demat form, and also then we are saying that the depository is the one where you store the securities in demat form. So there's a confusion that happens there.
Ma'am, can you please move the screen up a bit because there are some icons, so that is the reason we are not able to see.
You can see it now?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
So let me know as soon as you finish writing this bit so we can go on to that example.
Just want to confirm these are the government identities, no? NSDL, CDCL, because any no, we don't have any private identity.
They're government registered.
Okay.
Is everyone done? Okay, so right, so let's say you have a client A. Okay, he uses GS as his investment bank. So what happens is client A gives money to GS, which is then stored at their custodian, let's say Boni. Okay, and let's say there are some shares and bonds that he has, and that is also stored at the custodian in a demat form. Is everyone clear till here? So this one's the investment bank, and this one is the custodian bank. Okay, why?
GS, it is
Because
name of investment bank.
Goldman Sachs, short form.
Okay.
Okay. So why? Because let's say hypothetically, client A gave about, let's say, maybe 10 million to Goldman Sachs and told him, you invested in whichever market. At the end of 1 year, I want to see at least, let's say, another 5 million in the account. So total of 15 million. With me so far? Okay. So let's say GS does that. He invests the client's money in everything, but instead of making a nice profit of 5 million, they have made extra, let's say 6 million. But since everything is stored here, he can cook the book sort of and just show 5 million and pocket 1 million. That is a possibility, which technically should not be done, but it is a possibility. Would you agree?
Yes,
Salary
ma'am.
in
Yes,
Malaysia.
yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order to protect the client, you have to have a custodian. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Some of your investment banks do have a custody side, like your JP Morgan Chase, where JP Morgan is the IB side and Chase is the custody side. So if the client was using JP Morgan as their investment bank, they can't use Chase as their custody side because they're the same company. It has to be a different custodian. Is everyone clear with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the custodian has to be different. Now, let's say on behalf of client A says sell some, let's say they had some Google shares. Okay. And says that sell those Google shares. Now, GS finds a buyer. Let's say the buyer is client B. He makes an agreement with client B that I will sell, or let's say 100 shares of Google shares to you. Everyone with me so far?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So now let's say these shares are ultimately stored at the depository under custodian Boni's depository account. That will be here. So Google shares will be stored under this account here. So the day the shares have to be transferred to this guy's custodian also has a account in the depository. So client B custodian's account. So what will happen is the day that shares have to get transferred, GS has already instructed Boni, listen, from this client's account, take 10 Google shares and transfer it to this person's custody account, which is here. So what will happen is then Boni on that particular day will tell the depository, hey, from my account where I've stored the Google shares of client A, take 10 shares and transfer it to this person's account. Did everyone understand, or you want me to repeat it?
Please repeat, ma'am. Repeat.
Okay, so then pay attention again. Let's say client A tells GS that I want to sell 10 Google shares that I have. Okay. Now those 10 Google shares are stored at their custodian's account at the depository. which is Boni's depository account number at DTCC. Is everyone clear till here?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now, GS has found a buyer, client B. They have made an agreement. Let's say the agreement is we'll sell 10 Google shares at $10 each. This is the agreement. Okay, everyone with me so far? Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's say
Yeah.
tomorrow the shares have to get delivered. So now what will happen is tomorrow, as soon as the market opens, GS has already instructed Boni saying on behalf of client A, the 10 Google shares, transfer it to client B's custodian account. So when the market opens tomorrow, Boni, what it will do, will tell the depository, hey dude, for my account where I've stored this 10 Google shares of client A, transfer it to this custodian account. Is everyone clear with this now?
I just want to ask one question now.
Just one second. Let me just
Like,
complete one more thing. Then you can ask a question. Okay. This 10 into 10, $100. How is it paid? This guy's custodian, whoever it is, since it's a bank, it will transfer the money to this fellow, to Boni, once he sees the shares in his account. Okay. What was the question?
is that, ma'am, like the person client A purchased the share. So in the custodian, client is having his or her name share, like client A. Then in the depository, the Boni name is there, na?
It's
The custodian name is
account,
there.
the account. So it is Boni's responsibility to understand how many shares out of, let's say, also he's not, client A is not the only one who's using Boni as the custodian account, right? It can be multiple clients that are using. But at the depository, Boni might just have one account. So it is his responsibility to segregate the accounts and know which client has how many shares of which company.
Okay. Like from custodian to custodian transfer is there in the depository. You are saying that. Like
Yeah.
Boni depository transfer to the. Okay.
Usually, if you this thing you can directly hold a demat account with the depository, but as per regulations, you should have a custodian.
Okay.
Okay. So is everyone clear with what's the difference between a custodian and a depository now?
Okay, so in the nutshell, we can say that custodian bank and depository bank, they both are making the transactions on behalf of client A and client B.
Depository is not a bank. It's an institution that issues securities, and it's a centralized location to store all securities in demat form. Okay. In order for you to move the securities, you need to use the depository. Without the depository, it's not possible.
Okay, so client B must also have some custodian bank associated with him.
Yeah, that's what I've written here, no? Custodian here. And that's what I've written, client B custodian account.
Okay, fine.
Is everyone clear with this?
Not yet.
Which part is confusing?
I have my Demat account with Zerodha, so how can I know who is my custodian?
You should ask them who's your custodian. Because that person
Same
is
with
a broker. He's your broker.
So it means that custodian banks operate between B to C also. I thought custodian bank operate between only B to B.
No. It can operate between B to C as well. Okay, in your case, this thing is a broker. So ask him who's your custodian. He definitely has to have a custodian. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
To put it in a very simple term, the difference between a custodian and a depository is your custodian is like a museum where you can keep your work of art. They will maintain it for you, they look after it for you and everything, but they can't sell it without your permission. Got it? So unless and until you instruct a custodian, they will not do anything on your securities. And they will not advise you where to invest in everything. That is the work of the investment bank. Is everyone clear with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Basically, I want to ask something.
Mhm.
The work of investment bank finishes after the transaction has been made. No? The transfer has been done to the client page. So it's whole responsible.
No, after that you have your settlements and reconciliation. So that will be covered in your trade life cycle class.
Okay, like IB function is when they tell the custodian bank about the transfer of shares. So the work is finished of the IB bank.
No, after that you have to ensure that the custodian, if you're buying on behalf of the client, you have to ensure that the custodian has collected the shares. If you're selling on
Okay,
behalf
okay.
of the client, you have to ensure that the custodian has received the money.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Okay, okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's why I'm asking the whole process.
Are we clear with what's
Okay.
it? Sorry, what's the word?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. I have a question that consider there is a company called any Reliance. So it has its share. So ma'am, उसके share custodian bank के पास हैं या depository के पास हैं? In the very beginning.
Now, is Reliance a company that has issued shares, or is it a company that has bought shares of some other company?
No, ma'am. It has its own shares.
Why would
It
it
has not
invest
bought.
in it? Why would it invest in its own shares? That doesn't make sense, right? The reason why they're issuing shares in the first place is to raise capital. Yes or no?
Okay.
And any shares that are issued in the market are stored in dematerialized form at the depository.
Okay.
Okay. Are we okay with a depository and a custodian now, folks?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yeah, please can we
Yes.
continue because we have only 26 minutes and I still have major parts to cover, right? So, right, the next down is issuer, next participant, which is pretty simple. An issuer is nothing but it can be an institution, corporate, or government who has issued shares or bonds in the market to raise capital. Is this clear? Okay. Then you have brokers. Brokers are people who buy and sell securities on behalf of the client to make more money for the client, and they charge commission. That's how they make their money. Okay. And then you have someone called as dealers. Dealers buy and sell securities on behalf of the company they work for to make more money for the company. Okay, and I'll explain this with an example as well. And this is also called as proprietary trading, which was brought up by, I think, Aditya, if I'm not mistaken, who asked this question. I might have misspelled proprietary there. Proprietary.
Ma'am, I have a question regarding proprietary trading. So the proprietary trader, does he have to be an employee of the company or can be an outsider?
Employee of the company.
He has to be an employee. Okay.
Yeah. So how it works is, so you have example, let's say again, you have client A who hires, let's say, Goldman Sachs to invest their money. Okay. Now, Goldman Sachs has their traders or their brokers who are part of the company who will take this client's A money, invest it in the market for the client, make more money for the client, and charge the client a commission. With me so far? Yeah. So the
Yes.
commission earned is whose money now? The commission earned is whose money now?
Like client's money.
How? GS money, no? Because GS charged the client, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now this commission that is earned is given to dealers or proprietary traders of Goldman Sachs, who will then take this money, invest it in the market, and make more money for who now? Goldman, exactly. So that's the difference between
Ma'am, I don't understand this GS dealers part.
Let me put it this way. Let's say, Preeti, you are a Goldman Sachs trader / broker, and I am Goldman Sachs. Okay? Let's say Aditya is a Goldman Sachs dealer or proprietary trader. Okay?
Okay.
Let's say Anand is a client. Anand has hired me, Goldman Sachs. He's given me $10 million. He said, go invest this money for me in the market. Okay? So now I take this 10 million, I give it to you, Preeti. You're my trader / broker, right? What you do is you take this 10 million, you invest it in the market, and you make more money for Anand. With me so far?
No, I'm not sure I'm getting it.
Arey Baba, Anand is my client. I'm Goldman Sachs. He's given me 10 million. That 10 million I give to you because you're my trader who works for me. What you do is you take that 10
Yeah, I
million.
understood till the part that Goldman Sachs is giving money to the trader because they have to invest. So when they make commission, it is.
Wait, then what extra money I've made I've invested that 10 million for Anand in the market. I've made more money for him, for which I then charge him a commission. Yes or no?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say I charge him a commission of 1 million.
Okay.
That 1 million that I've received now, I give it to Aditya, who's my dealer or who's my proprietary trader of my company only. He's working for GS itself.
Okay.
That money is GS's money, that 1 million. He'll take that 1 million and he'll go invest it in the market. Now, what all profit he makes on that 1 million, it will belong to Goldman Sachs, right? It won't belong to client A because that 1 million is the commission that Goldman has earned on providing a service to Anand.
Okay, so the dealer is doing only one task, that he is reinvesting the money earned by Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
got it. Thank you.
So that is called as proprietary trading.
So the dealer takes the commission from the trader and he'll reinvest it in market.
It's not necessarily always the commission. It is whatever money that GS has set aside for proprietary trading. That money can either be earned through commissions or through service charges or any other means.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. So back on to this thing. So we are clear with issuers, brokers, and dealers. So with that, we've finished your major market participants for this thing. Okay. There are other participants as well, but we won't delve into them because these are the ones you'll primarily hear more of during the rest of your classes that will be conducted throughout the course. Is that clear? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this stuff. Don't worry, the recording will be provided to Sadaf, who will then send it on to you guys. So, at your leisurely pace, you can go through the recording again, which will have these notes and all of that. Because if I give you time to write now, because we only have like about 18 minutes left, and I still have quite a bit to go through. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through this bits. Next, we're going to cover financial markets and financial products. Okay, so you have primary market. Primary market is the very first time the shares or bonds are issued by the issuer to raise capital. Okay, and secondary market is the existing shares or bonds that are bought and sold in the market. So, for example, let's say company A issued the shares. Let me just put this down. Okay, let's say company A issued the shares and an investor bought the shares. So the very first time it is issued in the market by the company and an investor buys it, that is referred to as primary market. Is everyone clear with this? Okay. After which, when the investor sells it to another investor and this investor sells it to another investor, or this investor buys it from another investor, that is called as secondary market. Okay. So in order for a secondary market to exist, a primary market should have happened first. Okay. All right. And primary market is the market where always capital is raised. So in other words, capital market makes up a part of your primary market, where it's the first time a issuer issues shares or bonds to raise capital. Okay. And which, in this case, in primary market, whatever money is made out of issuing or selling the shares or bonds, the company receives it or the issuer receives it. After which, in the secondary market, when the investor buys or sells it, then the investor makes a profit on it. Okay, are we clear with what's primary and secondary market, folks? Why, Saujanya, you meant why as in why or why as in yes? Okay, got it. All right, so I'm going to continue. So then we have capital markets, like I mentioned, it is to raise capital. So the products are your shares and bonds. Okay. You have money markets, which is a short-term lending and borrowing market, and the products are your treasury bills, commercial papers, certificate of deposits, interbank lending, repo agreements. You have a class on shares and bonds, which will be your next two classes, and then that will follow up with the money market class. And then you have your derivatives market, which is primarily used for speculation, hedging, and arbitrage. Okay, and what this is will be further explained in your derivatives class. All right. Products of your derivatives are your forwards, futures, options, and swaps. Then you have your forex market, where you have, again, it's primarily used for speculation, hedging, and arbitrage. And you have different currencies that are traded in the forex market, like your dollars, Great British pounds, European euros. Then you have your commodities market, again used for this. Commodities like your wheat, gold, even your oil, your precious metal, precious stones, agriculture products, etc. Okay, this part is pretty simple. Is this clear to you guys? Yeah. Okay. So the next markets we're going to talk about is order-driven market, which is called as exchange-traded market, and we're going to talk about quote-driven market, or in other words, called as over-the-counter market. Okay. So write the heading down as order-driven market or exchange-traded market.
Can you up the slide, ma'am? It's not be seen.
Can you see it now? Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly go into this thing because. So let's say you want to buy Facebook shares. Okay. So you go to the NYC Stock Exchange and you go to something called as the order book of Facebook. When you open up the order book, you will see 4 columns. You'll see buy quantity, buy price, sell quantity, sell price and sell quantity. Okay. So as a buyer, you'll put in your order. You'll say you want to buy 10 shares at a price of $100 each. Okay. Similarly, you have sellers also who will put their orders. Is everyone clear till here? Yeah. So NYSE is nothing but a stock exchange. I hope you all know that. Yeah. Now, question is, as a buyer, do you know who the seller is?
No.
Exactly. So the first feature of your order-driven market is counterparty is unknown, meaning you don't know who your counterparty is as a buyer or a seller. So as a buyer, you don't know who the seller is, and as a seller, you don't know who the buyer is. The middle person, the exchange, is responsible to find you a match. So NYC's job is to find a seller for you as a buyer and to find a buyer for you as a seller. Is everyone clear with this? Yeah. The next point, you're not the only buyer who's putting your order. There are other buyers as well, right? You're not the only seller who's putting the orders. There are other sellers as well. You can see at what prices people want to buy and sell. Yes or no? Yeah. So price is transparent in an order-driven market. Okay. Because you can see at what prices people want to buy and sell. The only difference is you don't know who those people are because it's not visible to you. Is this clear to everyone? Yeah. The next feature is order execution is not guaranteed. What it means is order matching rather. Now you put buy 10 shares at a price of 100. So let's say if someone put in this, will the exchange match your order? Will this order get matched? Anand says no, Kumal says no, most of you say no. In fact, actually, this order will match because exchange goes on matching price first. So if you see the price is the same, right? Now what will happen is this seller's or side will settle. This buyer's extra 5 again will go on the exchange for a price of 100. Okay, so exchange goes on matching price first and first in and first out, meaning whoever put their order first. Is that clear? Okay, so that's why what could happen is sometimes the exchange may not find you a match. So your order execution or order matching is not guaranteed. Okay. However, if your order is executed or matched, your settlement is guaranteed because margins are maintained. What this means is, as a buyer, you put this order, you put this price. At the clearing house that works closely with the exchange, the buyer has something called as a buyer's margin account, where he'll keep that amount of money in the margin account. Similarly, the seller, Aditya, can you mute yourself, please? Okay. The seller similarly has to keep that amount of money in the seller's margin account. Is everyone clear till here? So in order for this deal to happen on the buyer side and the seller side, they have to keep the respective amount of money in the margin accounts at this clearing house. Everyone clear till here? Okay.
When you say money, like what money? That money that is going in the order that goes into the margin account.
Yes, or it could be even more than what is the actual order total amount.
Okay, got it.
Now, what happens is the day the trade has to settle when the market opens, since the exchange has told the clearing house, I have matched this buyer with this seller, the clearing house will tell the depository, take the 10 Facebook shares that are there in the seller's depository account, transfer it to the buyer's account. Okay, and then what he does is the money from the buyer's account he'll transfer to the seller's account and the trade has settled. Is everyone clear till here? Yeah. However, let's say this is the scenario. This fellow was supposed to keep the 10 Facebook shares, but he hasn't kept it. Okay, but however he does or he has kept the money at the margin account, which is compulsory because he had to do the deal. But on the day the trade has to settle, when the clearing house tells the depository, do transfer the shares from the seller's account to the buyer's account, depository will say the seller hasn't kept any shares. So then what the clearing house will do is it will take this money from the seller's margin account, it will go to the market or even from the stock exchange maybe, buy the shares and deliver the shares to the buyer's account. Did you understand or should I repeat it?
Please repeat. This is a little bit confusing.
Okay. So, on the day of the settlement, when the clearing house told the depository, transfer the shares from the seller's account, but the seller has defaulted. He has not kept the shares. Correct? So, that money that the seller kept in his margin account at the clearing house, the clearing house will take that money, buy the Facebook shares, and deliver the Facebook shares to the buyer. Now the buyer side is settled. Okay. Clearing house will take this money. Okay. So the buyer basically has no fear because his trade will settle. Is this clear to everyone?
Just want to ask one question. Like you said na ki they like the in NYSE they will match the rates of $100 and $100 quantity of 10. So I want to ask if the like seller don't have the share in the depository, so at the same rate they will buy like clearinghouse same at the same rate they will buy the like bid is there.
Depends.
The bid price.
Depends on what rate they buy. If they have to spend more on buying the shares, they will take the difference from the seller. And if the seller refuses to pay that difference, he'll be blacklisted from trading on the exchange.
Because the buyer has put a bid on 100, so he will be
But
liable of getting on 100
buyer
only.
will
Na?
still buy at 100 only. He will not pay more.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, this process where the clearing house steps in and acts as a seller to the buyer, that process is called as novation. Okay. So, if the order is executed or matched, right, the order settlement is guaranteed because margins are maintained. And if required, the clearing house will step in and do novation, where it will act as a seller to a buyer or a buyer to a seller. So that's why default risk is low in a order driven market or an exchange traded market. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So the other market that we have is called as your quote driven market, or in other words, it's called as the over the counter market. Okay. Now, here the difference is you don't need what you say, exchange. It's over the counter. Basically what happens is you have a buyer, you have a seller. Okay, they know each other, so they directly make a deal between the two of them. Okay, so this one wants to buy 10 Facebook shares at a price of, let's say, $10 each. Okay, so the buyer knows the seller. That's why your first feature is counterparty is known in a order driven market. Is everyone clear till here? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the next thing is your price is not transparent. The reason being, this buyer and this seller made a deal of $10 per share, but this seller could have bought from another seller at, let's say, maybe $9 per share, but he's selling, to this person at $10 per share. Does this person know that this person bought it for $9 per share?
No, no.
No, right? Similarly, are these the only two people who are buying and selling Facebook shares? There are multiple brokers, sellers, buyers who are buying and selling at rates that they have negotiated, because the aspect of negotiation comes in place because they know who the buyer and who the seller is. Okay, so price is not transparent in the OTC market or the quote driven market. Is everyone clear till here? Okay. However, order execution is guaranteed. Why? If this guy doesn't agree to sell at 10, is he the only guy in the market available who's selling? No, there are multiple people. Because you can negotiate, definitely you will find a seller. So order execution is guaranteed, but order settlement is not guaranteed, because in an OTC market, you don't maintain margins. Unlike in a order driven market where you maintain margins at the clearing house, in an OTC market you don't have to maintain margins. So default risk is also high. Is everyone clear
I
with
do
this?
I do trading sometimes, so I do trading in exchange trading market or over the counter market.
It depends on how your broker executes your order, whether he is
Just a,
executed in the exchange or whether he is executed in the OTC market. Anupam's
but just a
question.
little bit.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, please. Just a little bit question because I'm a bit confused about you are saying the order-driven market and OTC market, over-the-counter market.
Mm.
So the broker is there. Broker act as an intermediary.
Mm.
So the market comes the order-driven market. All the like
No,
they're
not
providing the platform
necessarily.
to.
No, listen.
Okay.
You can tell your broker, I want 10 Facebook shares. Now he has two
Yes.
choices. Either he can place your order in the exchange, which is the order driven market, or he
Okay.
can place your order in the OTC market, meaning he has to find another broker has a client who's willing to sell to him.
Okay, like the broker will connect to broker, another broker.
Yeah.
In the order. Oh, okay, okay.
In
So
the
it happens the broker
OTC
having the both
market.
they deal with the both aspects. The broker deal with the both
It
aspects
again
over the
depends
counter also.
on where you want to execute your trade, whether you want to do it in the order driven market or the quote driven market. The advantage of order driven market is if your order is matched, your settlement is guaranteed. There's no default risk. However, matching an order might be a risk because you may not always get a match. Whereas in quote
So the
driven
person,
market, you can negotiate on the prices and your order can get matched, but there's default risk because you don't maintain margins.
Because the basically the functioning is the are coming from the order driven market only. Now, if they be provided, you are saying the example of the FB shares, if they connect to the broker also.
I'm saying like
Broker.
this. Let's say you want to buy Facebook shares. Either you can buy
Yes.
from me, the exchange,
Yes.
on the
Okay.
exchange, or you can buy from someone else in the order driven market, meaning you know that person.
Okay.
On exchange,
Okay.
you don't know who you'll place your order with me. I will find you a seller, right?
Okay.
I
Okay.
will match your order based on what the seller also has put as his order, based on the price.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, whereas in OTC market, I know you personally, I'm coming directly to you, I'm telling you, hey, I want to buy shares, you want to sell, and I can negotiate with you.
Understood now.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Anupam, maintaining margins means we covered it here, no? Clearing house. When you're doing order driven market, if you're placing any orders in the exchange, you have to maintain money in the margin account, which is called as maintaining margins. Is that clear? Okay. So that is your order driven market and that is your quote driven market, or rather it's called as exchange traded market and over the counter market. Okay. The last bit that we have is something called as buy side and sell side. So institutions that are involved in the financial markets usually fall under something called as the buy side or sell side. So buy side are institutions that have money and are looking to invest this money. Okay. Simple enough. Institutions that have money and they're looking to invest the money in the market. They fall under buy side. So your hedge funds, mutual funds, governments, corporates, HNIs, they all fall under buy side. Sell side are institutions that sell certain products or services for their day-to-day running of business, like your investment banks and commercial banks. Okay. However, your investment bank can have both sides, buy side and sell side. The reason being, you see all of these guys that I've mentioned here who are under the buy side, right? Your hedge funds, mutual funds, governments, corporates, HNIs, they're all clients to investment bank. They're all clients to a investment bank. So investment bank can have both sides, which is your buy side and sell side. But there has to be a clear distinction between the both. Reason being, or that distinction is also called as a Chinese wall. Reason being, I'll give you an example. Let's say one of the services an investment bank provides is mergers, right? We covered that little earlier in class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say hypothetically, Android and Nokia decide to merge. Okay, and they hired, let's say, Goldman, or we'll change it. Let's say they hired Morgan Stanley to help them in the merger. Now, this news is not made public yet. With me so far? Okay. So let's say a person who's working on the sell side of the mergers department is having lunch with his friend who's working on the buy side. Okay. And he's telling him, hey, listen, Nokia and Android are planning to merge. And this news is not made public yet. Now, what can happen? That friend can take that information and inform his clients, tell them to invest in Nokia and Android or Google shares, right? Why? Because once the companies merge, what is going to happen? Yes, Aditya. In other words, it's insider trading. Once the companies merge,
Price will increase.
price will go up and these guys can sell those shares and make a nice amount of money.
May. Yeah.
So that because of that, there's something called as a Chinese wall, which information should not pass from the sell side to a buy side in an investment bank because they have both sides. Are we clear with what is buy side and sell side?
What steps are taken? How it can be prevented?
they have separate seatings. In fact, if you work in the sell side, if you try to access buy side department, like try to go into their department, your key card won't let you. If you swipe your card immediately, security
Okay,
will come
okay.
and ask you, "What are you doing?"
Because the insider trading is always this a criminal act. That's why I'm saying
Yeah,
like how they prevent
they
right.
have precautions. They
So
have
both
precautions.
parties are not they're not known to each other. I can say that, na?
It's from within the same company, no?
But ma'am, if the
Like,
this
I'm
trade bargain
the same
trade is
company.
from the same organization side, like if GS or any Morgan Stanley, there should be people interacting with each other, and they could do this thing inside trading very
Yeah, yeah,
easily.
same. Like I'm saying that because the
There will
same
be
process.
precautions that are taken, and obviously there will be this thing investigations done.
Okay, like proper precautions.
Yes, proper precaution. Like I said, one precaution is that you cannot even, if you are from the sell side, if you try to access any department on the buy side, your key card won't let you. It's programmed in such a way that it will tell this person's from this side, he's trying to access the other side.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and
So,
there
ma'am,
have
my
been
question.
instances that have happened, and people have been questioned by secure, and sometimes it has even led to people being fired.
Just want to ask, like the person is working in the buy side and sell side, they were informal communication also. Like if that also happens. Na?
They can't, they shouldn't. That's the thing. If they do it, if they get
Okay,
caught,
okay.
it will be very bad.
Okay, 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 okay. Thank you
Right?
so
Once
much.
the news is made public, you can go and tell. Then there's no harm. But this
Yeah,
was before it was made public, you told, so he's taken advantage of it. Sorry, I think
yeah.
Preeti or Saujanya had a question. Sorry. Since we are almost
Yes,
missing, I have a. Go ahead.
I have a question. So you're saying that when two companies merge, the share value for that selling company or the buying company will increase. So if I'm working in one of these organizations, I have a tendency of buying those shares and reselling it in the market for a higher value. So in order to avoid that, when any merging is happening, the parties involved should not do any internal trading, right? That's what you're trying to say all this time.
No, what I was trying to say is your scenario is different. Your scenario is you're working for the company, your company and another company are merging, and you have this information, and you go and let's say buy your company shares or that company shares in the market before the news is made public. And then once it's made public and once the share prices go up, you can sell it and make a tidy sum. That is insider trading. It is using information that is not made public. What I was talking about is there are two separate sides. One side by mistake tells the other side without the news going public yet that this is going to happen. The other side misuses the information and tells his clients to invest in those companies that are going to merge. So that once they merge, when their share prices go up, they can sell those shares and make a nice profit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So I have another class at 5, so I can spare another 4 minutes if you guys have any other questions before we wind up. And
But
then
just
what I'll do is as soon as this video takes time to get converted, takes about a day because it's a lengthy video. Once the video gets converted, I will send a link to Sataf, and then what you can do is you can go through the video at your
but
pace.
missed the
Ma'am,
ma'am.
where we will get this video?
Okay, ma'am.
I said it will
Missed
take
the
about
initial
a
section.
day because it takes about a day for it to convert into the MP4 format. It takes a long time.
Ma'am,
Yeah, that's fine.
10 to
where do we
But
get
10.
the
where
video?
we will have access to this video?
When or where?
Where?
Location,
I
ma'am.
will send a
Yeah.
link to Sadaf, and Sadaf will forward that link to you guys.
Okay, over the WhatsApp group. It seems like
WhatsApp group
you
or
guys have some
No, I
WhatsApp
think
group, I
he'll
feel.
send it via email to you guys. He'll create a group batch or this thing.
Do we have a WhatsApp group? In that WhatsApp group, we will provide, or in a
Not
mail
the
you will give?
WhatsApp group. He'll send it via email. Nikhil, this class started at around 2:25 and we didn't cover much. The first thing we covered was what was financial system. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Actually, we don't know the like class merger is there, so I joined 2:30. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even when
we
I
didn't
joined, the
we didn't
class was
start
started.
at 2:15 or anything. We actually some of them logged in at 2:15. We waited till 2:25 and then we just started.
Okay.
Okay, like 10 to 10 minutes
Not even 10
approximately.
minutes,
5 to
5
10.
minutes.
Can we take your leave?
Yeah, you can take your leave.
Okay.
So if you're
Thank
done,
you, ma'am.
you guys don't have any more questions for today. So
Ma'am,
what I
you
would
will
suggest is
Just want to ask question. Yes.
you
what I
you
would
you will take next class next week class you will take, ma'am, or some another teacher?
I think it's Rakshit, the other trainer. So I used to work for Marticus. I left about 2 years ago. So I freelance with them. So when the trainers are not there, that time I step in.
Okay.
I have one more
Yeah,
question.
ma'am.
When you told about that Goldman Sachs and dealer, I wish to ask that the dealer person, he is the employee of Goldman Sachs, or
Yeah.
he is a freelancer?
No, he's the employee of Goldman Sachs.
Yes. Okay.
Like just want to ask, like you're saying a dealer and broker,
Huh.
so they take the money from the investor to invest in the so to so market
The
to earn the profit.
broker or trader.
Ha, ha, broker and trader are the same, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like say the example of any broker from the Indian, they take the, because today the brokers are not like giving any research calls to the person. They only provide that platform to the trading in the market. So I want to ask, broker are really responsible that for their investment money, the client invest money was 10 million. So they tell to Goldman Sachs, Goldman gave to the broker. So broker investing in the various
The broker
aspects
is part
in
of
the
Goldman
market.
Sachs only, na?
Okay, okay. Like they give the guarantee as much as they give, you will get this much
That
of
is
this
an
much return.
understanding between the client and the investment bank. If the client says, I want to see at least a 5% return, that's what Goldman might give them in writing, saying that we'll give you a 5% return on your investment.
If I am at this compare with similarity to the mutual funds, like mutual fund, if you start something like in the mutual funds, also they like the pool of the fund, they invest in the various aspects in the real estate,
Yes,
also in
Goldman
every.
doesn't
Because this.
pool one client's money with another client's money. It caters
Oh, okay,
individually to
okay.
clients.
This is individual. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I think
Like
I don't
the
know
thing
whether
is,
it was sorry, Nikhil. I think Preeti or Saujanya, one of you, I think, had questions. Then you got overrode by the guys.
okay, okay. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask that we will be provided with these notes as well, because I don't understand one concept, but I will try to, learn it by myself and then I will ask you.
It will
So
be
I am
there
not
on the
sure, will you be
recording, Preeti. You will be able to see this in the
in
recording.
the record?
Yeah.
These notes will not be provided, right?
Separately, it won't be provided. It's in the recordings. So this class is completely recorded, and this recording the link will be sent to Sadaf, who will then send it to you. You can go through the recording. You can pause at any time. You can forward or you can stop, and then you can take down notes if you want from that. Okay.
I can ask doubts, ma'am. Happen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Assignments.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am,
Don't
I have
be
a
all
question.
learned. Okay, sorry guys, it's way this thing. So I also have like just 14 minutes before the next class starts. So if you have any doubts, you
Told
can
us about
ask
custodian
in
bank
the next class.
SG and
Sorry, Vatsil.
Ma'am, the next, ma'am, excuse me. The next class will be on Saturday 2:30, right?
You
The
need to check
next
with
class.
Sadaf. So any scheduling or anything, check with Sadaf.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, is that all right, guys? So hope you have a good week ahead, and